Hey guys, tonight we step softly into a realm where empires rise and fall, not with war cries, but with whispers. You're about to drift into the silent heart of a dream, a vision locked inside the mind of a troubled king and gently revealed by a prophet who listens better in silence than most rulers do in shouting. Picture yourself in a vast stone palace under starlight. The corridors cool the air thick with the breath of ancient incense. Somewhere in that sleeping kingdom, King Nebuchadnezzar stirs restlessly in his bed. He's just awakened from a dream so vivid it stripped the sleep from his bones, but the details slip through his fingers like sand. You somehow are floating beside him unseen, but aware of every trembling beat of his royal heart. This isn't just a dream, it's a message, one sealed so tightly in divine silence that not even the dreamer can recall it. And you're not supposed to survive this journey unless you've got wings, or a direct line to the Almighty. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is. It's always beautiful to see where God's peace flows. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Daniel, likely still young, is told that not only has the king forgotten the dream, but he's demanding someone reveal it and its meaning or face death. No pressure. The other wise men panic. Their spells and scrolls can't summon what's not even remembered. But Daniel does something that feels small, even laughably simple. He goes home and prays. You kneel beside him now. The floor is cold, his voice is low. He doesn't bargain with God or try to sound poetic. He just asks calmly and clearly for mercy. And heaven listens. That night, as Daniel sleeps, the mystery is unveiled. Not shouted, not thundered from a mountain. It's revealed in a vision so serene it could make your spine tingle if you weren't already so relaxed. You watch with him. The dream rises like mist. A colossal statue towering above the earth, its head made of gold chest of silver belly, of bronze legs of iron, and feet of iron mixed with clay. You float around it like an ember in the wind. It doesn't move, but it speaks. Not with words, but presence. You feel the kingdoms it represents, each one colder than the last, power without peace, glory without permanence. Then a stone not cut by human hands comes soaring in. It strikes the statue's feet. Everything collapses, not with a roar, but like a sandcastle touched by a wave. Dust, silence, then something new. The stone grows, slowly, peacefully, filling the whole earth. You realize this dream isn't about destruction, it's about the futility of human pride and the soft persistence of God's reign. The kind that doesn't need noise to endure. Now here's a lesser-known curiosity. Some scholars believe the stone represents not only Christ, but the mysterious, ever-expanding kingdom of heaven, as described in Daniel and mirrored in Jesus' parables. A kingdom that grows not by sword, but by seeds planted in hearts like yours. Others argue it refers to a messianic age still to come. They point to the suddenness of the collapse, interpreting the stone as divine intervention yet to unfold. You lean into the mystery, letting both views swirl like incense in your mind. Daniel awakes, calm. He knows what he must do. As you walk with him back into the king's chamber, the tension melts in the silence. He doesn't panic. He doesn't flatter. He simply speaks. There is a God in heaven who reveals secrets. It's such a quiet sentence, but it cuts deeper than any royal decree. And for a moment, even the king is quiet. You sit with that stillness now. You've walked through a palace of pride and knelt in the shadows of a forgotten dream. And now, as you breathe in deeply, your mind joins the rhythm of something eternal. Remember this before we drift further. Sometimes God answers not with thunder, but with clarity in the quiet. Like he did for Daniel, like he might do for you. You're still in the glow of the vision, hovering at the edge of the great room, where King Nebuchadnezzar leans forward, hands gripping the arms of his golden throne. His mouth is slightly open, not in anger but in wonder. You can almost hear his heart pounding like a distant drum. Daniel calm as moonlight begins to explain the dream. You feel the hush settle over the court. Even the flickering torches seem to burn quieter. The statue, Daniel says, is not just a statue. It's a timeline of power. You trace it in your thoughts, head of gold, that's Nebuchadnezzar's own Babylon, shining bright and proud. But it's only the beginning. The chest and arms of silver, an empire yet to come. Stronger in organization perhaps, but less dazzling. Medo-Persia, some will say later. Then the bronze belly, sleek and quick Greece, ruled by a swift conqueror who dies too young. Then the iron legs, cold, unyielding. Rome, possibly. Scholars argue softly and endlessly. Some say it's a composite of many future kingdoms. Others say it's a mirror of the world's cruelest ambitions. Finally, the feet. Iron mixed with clay, fragile strength. It tries to stand, but it can't hold. It cracks at the joints. And then the stone. You feel it again, not crashing, not violent, just arriving, like a note of music you didn't hear until the silence let it in. The stone breaks the statue's feet, and the whole thing collapses in a dusty hush. You can almost smell the powder of fallen gold and shattered iron. It vanishes like a fading memory. Then that stone grows gentle and slow. It becomes a mountain, a kingdom that never ends. Daniel says nothing more. He doesn't puff his chest. He doesn't even smile. He just waits. And so do you. Then something incredible. The king rises. He falls to the ground. A man who rules an empire bows before a prisoner, not because he's been conquered, but because he's been shown something deeper than conquest. Here's a quiet curiosity. Nebuchadnezzar makes a declaration of praise, not full devotion, not yet, but something stirring. Some ancient texts suggest he even begins to see Daniel's God as a god among gods. Others believe this moment is the seed that will later lead to his transformation. There's uncertainty, of course. Some scholars argue the king's actions are political and attempt to flatter the divine and control the uncontrollable. Others sense sincerity beginning to bloom in him. You drifting beside the pillars feel no need to decide. You simply observe. Now you follow Daniel as he steps away. He's promoted, of course. That's what kings do when prophets save their pride. But Daniel doesn't forget his companions. He remembers the ones who prayed with him. He lifts them up with him. You walk with them through a Babylon not so terrifying anymore. The stars above seem kinder now, as if they've overheard heaven's secrets and are keeping silent out of respect. Your eyes rest on the colossal statue in your memory. You realize it's more than history, it's a warning in stone. No matter how tall, no matter how regal, every kingdom built without God eventually crumbles. Not loudly, just inevitably. And that stone, it's still growing. Somewhere inside your spirit it grows too. It's a peaceful idea, isn't it? That the strongest kingdom is the one you can't see. The one that doesn't rust or fall or brag. You settle deeper into stillness now. The echoes of that dream start to fade, but the feeling remains. The feeling that God does not compete with empires. He simply outlasts them. You're deeper in now, floating beside the slow breath of ancient fire. The air changes heavier, thicker, tinged with the scent of smoke that never quite burns you. It's quiet, unnaturally quiet, and then you realize why. You're inside the furnace, but you're not afraid. The walls glow with impossible heat, but you feel no pain. Instead, you hear a calm rhythm, a heartbeat. No, it's the sound of peace walking in flame. You turn, and there he is. Not Daniel this time. His friends Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stand quietly beside you, eyes unblinking, robes untouched. They should be ash, but they look cleaner than when they were thrown in. And beside them, someone else. A fourth figure. He doesn't speak, but his presence rolls over you like a wave made of light. Ancient, gentle, undeniable. One like a son of God, Nebuchadnezzar would later say. And you agree not because you understand it, but because your spirit recognizes it before your mind catches up. This scene suspended in the center of fire is the softest rebellion you've ever witnessed. It began with a simple refusal. The king in his ever-growing pride had built an image, yes, another statue. This one tall and gleaming, meant to be worshipped. The entire court bowed, the musicians played. The people fell in sync like dominoes of obedience. Except three. They stood, silently, no angry speeches, no dramatic gestures, just stillness. The kind of stillness that unsettles rulers more than shouting ever could. You feel it even now, that defiant peace. They didn't fight the system, they simply didn't bow. The punishment obvious. The furnace heated 7 times hotter than usual. So hot that the guards who tossed them in collapsed from the heat. You imagine the panic in those final steps, yet the 3 friends didn't flinch. You float through that moment, the fall into fire, the sudden coolness, the way the flames curl around them but do not touch them, as if heaven laid a transparent hand between fire and flesh. And here's a lesser-known curiosity. Many early church fathers saw this fourth figure as a pre-incarnate Christ, an appearance of Jesus before Bethlehem. Others see it as an angel sent specifically for protection. Jewish tradition often leans toward the latter, while Christian mystics gaze deeper, believing the fire revealed a shadow of future mercy. And yet no scholarly certainty can explain the stillness you now feel in this flame. This moment is not about escape. It's about presence. You realize that the miracle isn't that the fire vanished, it's that God joined them inside it. The king watches from outside, eyes wide. He sees 4 walking unharmed, not kneeling, not screaming, just walking. There's a strange, sleepy joke in this. The very king who ordered everyone to bow is now the one rising speechless before a miracle that walks instead of kneels. When the 3 friends are called out, they emerge unsinged, not a hair scorched, not even the smell of smoke. Peace doesn't just survive the fire, it exits without carrying the scent of fear. You sit with that now. How often do your thoughts carry smoke from fires long since past? What if you could leave even the smell behind? There's comfort in knowing that sometimes God won't prevent the furnace, but He'll change the temperature when He steps into it with you. You breathe slowly. The warmth around you isn't heat, it's holiness. And the silence is full, not empty. There's no need for commentary here. No extra explanation. Just you standing inside a miracle that whispers louder than any sermon. The fire fades behind you, but the warmth lingers not on your skin, but somewhere deeper, like a glowing hush inside your soul. Now you find yourself drifting forward back into the quiet nights of Babylon, back into the chambers where kings lie uneasy. Tonight the dream doesn't belong to Daniel. It belongs to Belshazzar, the proud heir of Nebuchadnezzar, who doesn't remember the lessons carved into the fire. You float over his bed now, above silken pillows and goblets of wine left half drunk. He tosses, murmurs, flinches, because his dream isn't peaceful, it's a sea of chaos. And you're pulled in with him, waves crash in slow motion, dark and endless. A wind howls not with rage, but with eerie silence. 4 great beasts rise from the sea, not all at once, but one after another like characters stepping out of a divine play, whose meaning you can almost touch. First, a lion. It strides from the surf with wings like an eagle, powerful, regal. But something changes. Its wings are plucked. It stands like a man given the heart of one too. You wonder if this is transformation or humiliation, or maybe both. Some say it's Babylon itself. Others say it's a broader metaphor, strength made humble divinity reaching into humanity. Next comes a bear, lopsided, raised up on one side. It gnaws on ribs 3 to be exact. You drift close and hear it breathing heavily like a beast that's already eaten too much but still wants more. Medo-Persia, perhaps. Or is it something else entirely? Scholars disagree as always. The asymmetry fascinates them. Then the leopard. Fast, sleek. 4 wings, 4 heads. You're not sure how it balances, but it moves with impossible grace. Greece, some whisper. The legacy of Alexander split into 4 parts. But why a leopard? Why not a stallion or a falcon? Maybe because some dangers look beautiful when they move quickly. And then the 4th. You feel it before you see it. A beast unlike anything else. Iron teeth, bronze claws. 10 horns that seem to shimmer in and out of reality. It doesn't walk, it devours. And yet there's no sound. Even its violence is muted like a nightmare without screams. It terrifies you not because it roars, but because it doesn't have to. And then, among its horns, another rises. A little one pushing others aside. It has eyes. It speaks. Proudly. Constantly. You lean in, but the words slip through your thoughts like smoke. You're not meant to remember them, only to feel their arrogance. Here's your hidden gem tonight. In early Jewish mysticism, this little horn is a subject of deep suspicion, possibly representing not just an earthly ruler, but a spirit of defiance. Some early Christian thinkers, particularly in Eastern traditions, saw it as a precursor to an Antichrist figure. Others interpret it simply as symbolic of rulers who exalt themselves above God. And still nothing is definitive. That's the nature of prophecy, it dances just out of reach. And yet Daniel watches, you watch with him, and suddenly a throne appears. Not built, not carried in, it just is. And the story takes a turn. But hold that thought. For now, you sit in the still waters where these beasts rose. You let their symbols swirl around you not to fear them, but to understand something deeper. That chaos often rises from what is hidden. But God remains beyond the sea unmoved. You return to the present nestled in stillness. These beasts don't reach you here. They rise, they fall, they fade. But you float peacefully above the surface. Because you know something the beasts never do. They are temporary. You linger above the sea just a little longer, watching its ripples settle after the beasts have vanished. It's as though the water remembers their weight but refuses to hold their shape. And now one vision stays with you, the first of the four, the lion with eagle's wings. It rises again in your memory, this time slower, softer, like it's trying to speak without roaring. You drift closer. The creature stands proud, golden mane, glinting with a light that doesn't come from the sun. The wings are vast, majestic, royal, but something odd happens. The wings are plucked, and there's no violence in it. It's as if they fall away by design, like leaves in their season. You pause, hovering, breath matched to the beast's chest as it begins to change. It stands upright, human-like. Its eyes soften. Its heart, no longer a beast's, is now something tender. A heart of a man. You feel this moment more than you understand it. It's more than transformation. It's a redemption arc wrapped in mystery. Many scholars link this lion to Babylon, particularly Nebuchadnezzar himself. His story is the only one in scripture where a king becomes beast-like, then returns human again. Remember how he once dreamed of gold and dominion. Later, he lived in the wild, hair like feathers, nails like claws, until one day he looked to heaven and was restored. Could this lion be him? Some believe so. Others think this is just the nature of empire, powerful, divine, given at first, but ultimately humbled. The wings represent pride, divine favor, or even speed. Their removal, stripping down to something truer. And yet even that interpretation feels like a whisper, not a shout. You float near the lion's eye now. It doesn't blink. It sees you, not as prey, but as something familiar. You realize slowly that this beast isn't frightening anymore. It's learning, changing, becoming. There's a sacred softness and strength restrained. You can almost feel God's hand guiding this creature from ferocity into humility, not to weaken it, but to heal it. And maybe something inside you is doing the same. Here's a quiet curiosity. In some apocalyptic Jewish writings outside the canon, the lion represents not just Babylon, but also divine judgment passing into mercy. One tradition even suggests the eagle's wings connect this vision to Ezekiel's strange living creatures, half animal, half angel, all mystery. Others disagree entirely. They say the lion is symbolic only of political power, with no room for compassion in its metaphor. But you don't feel politics here. You feel presence. Daniel must have felt it too. You imagine him writing down these images, not fully grasping what they meant, but still trusting they were important. He didn't edit. He didn't explain. He simply recorded. Sometimes your job isn't to understand. It's just to notice. You float backward now, watching the lion turn and vanish into the fog of vision. It doesn't roar. It doesn't fly. It just walks away upright, quiet, changed. You feel the stillness return, wrapping around your mind like a soft veil. There's no moral here, no final note. Just a sense that everything proud will one day kneel, and everything humble might just stand. You close your eyes, the image still flickering behind your lids, a lion wingless, but not fallen. Peaceful, and perhaps more powerful for it. Now the lion fades, not with a growl, but like a dream dissolving before dawn. And from the mist of Daniel's vision, something heavier lumbers forward. You feel it before you see it. Its breath is thick, its weight undeniable. The bear. It rises slowly, one side higher than the other, as though burdened by an unseen imbalance. Its eyes scan the silent horizon with a hunger that never seems satisfied. And in its jaws, 3 ribs, not bones exactly, more like memories of conquest lodged between its teeth like trophies. You hover above, weightless, while it drags its slow bulk across the soft earth. The bear does not run. It doesn't have to. Power in this case is not speed. It is inevitability. The imbalance is striking, raised up on one side. Scholars have debated this detail for centuries. Is it Medo-Persia with Persia, the dominant force? Is it some dual empire always leaning harder in one direction? You feel that lean now, as though the entire beast could roll sideways if it took one wrong step. But it doesn't. It marches on. And the ribs, they remain in its mouth unmoved. Some say they are Babylon Lydia, and Egypt devoured, conquered. Others believe they represent kingdoms in symbolism only. Still others wonder if the ribs represent something less political, something personal. Maybe they're remnants of what was consumed to build power in the first place. You drift closer. The bear does not look at you, but you can feel its breath. Hot, measured. It doesn't pant or snarl. It simply exists, proof that dominance doesn't always shout. Sometimes it just waits. The command echoes from somewhere unseen, arise, devour much flesh. The voice doesn't yell, it doesn't need to. The bear moves forward again. You sense it now, not a beast driven by rage, but by instruction. It's following orders, not instinct. And that's what chills you more than its claws. And yet, here's what so many miss: this beast is not the end of the story. It's not the highest, strongest, or most frightening. It's transitional, temporary. Even the most dominant forces are stepping stones in something much, much larger. And here's tonight's quiet theological wrinkle. Some scholars note that this bear, despite its appetite, isn't given dominion in the same way the lion was. It devours, yes, but it does not rule with charisma or vision. It's a tool, a function. Perhaps that's a message in itself. What the world sees as strength, heaven sees as temporary machinery. You move backward now, watching the bear's footsteps vanish into soft dirt. There's no trail, no roar, no closing act, just a quiet departure. And in the stillness that follows, you're left with a thought. Maybe not everything that's strong is stable, and not everything that devours is destined to remain. You settle again into the hush. The weight of the bear is gone from the world, but your mind holds its image like a pressed leaf in scripture. One side raised, 3 ribs, silent purpose. And through it all, a God who watches from beyond the vision, never surprised, never shaken. The bear vanishes into shadow, leaving the ground strangely lighter beneath your thoughts. And then movement. Swift, low to the earth, impossible to track with the eyes alone. You feel wind? Not just from one direction, but everywhere at once, brushing past your skin like invisible wings. And suddenly there it is, the next creature in Daniel's vision. The leopard, but not a normal leopard. This one has 4 wings stretched out from its back, feathered, trembling, made not for gliding, but for blitzing. It moves so fast it seems to blink in and out of form. You try to focus, but the motion deceives your senses. And then you notice it has 4 heads, 4 minds, 4 wills, 4 faces, each looking in a different direction. It should be terrifying, but instead you're entranced. There's elegance in this creature. Even its violence, potential as it may be, feels composed, calculated. It doesn't roar or growl. It hums with purpose, as if speed itself were sacred. Some say this beast represents Greece, and the wings Alexander the Great's lightning conquests. The 4 heads, his empire split into 4 after his sudden death, divided among generals who could never quite hold what he captured. But others whisper a different possibility, that this isn't just about one nation or man, that it's about all things that rise too fast. Kingdoms, dreams, ideas, things that soar before they root. You think about that now, how even speed has a price. And here's your lesser-known curiosity. In some early interpretations, this leopard was seen as a representation of knowledge without wisdom. Fast learning, fast progress, fast everything, but no pause, no prayer. You float beside the creature now, and you see that it's not restless, it's focused. It waits for a command, but none comes. This beast, unlike the bear, is given dominion. That's what Daniel's vision says. It's granted rule, however brief. You can almost hear a silent coronation echo across the landscape, and yet it's a fragile rule. You glance at the 4 heads. They don't argue, they simply coexist, each balancing the other. But it feels unstable, like a table with one too many legs. Maybe that's the point. The world, when ruled by speed and division, cannot last. But still it flies. You let yourself move with it for a moment. The wind rushes past your cheeks. The earth is a blur. Time slows down even as the leopard accelerates. And through all of it you hear no noise, just silence whipped into motion. Then suddenly it stops. Not out of fatigue, but finality. Its rule has ended. No fire, no sword. Just a pause that tells you something heavier is coming. You hover in the air, breathing slowly again. The leopard is gone, but your thoughts trail behind it like a flag caught in wind. You wonder how often you've chased things quickly without waiting to ask why. Daniel's vision doesn't slow down to explain, it simply shows. And you, like him, are left to rest in mystery. In your spirit now, one truth settles quietly. Speed conquers many things, but not peace. The wind vanishes. What was fast now feels very far away, and in its absence the silence thickens. A different kind of presence begins to rise, slower, colder, heavier than the beasts before it. You're not sure where it's coming from, only that something ancient is approaching. Not with grace, not even with fury, but with a mechanical certainty, like the turning of unseen gears in the depths of the earth. And then you see it. The fourth beast. There's no animal comparison this time. No lion, no bear, no leopard. Just it. As if even Daniel in his vision couldn't find a name for the horror he saw. And yet you don't scream. You don't run. You just watch. It's unlike anything you've floated beside so far. Its body is jagged metallic, almost industrial, teeth like iron, claws of bronze, 10 horns each swaying slightly as if listening for something. Its eyes aren't eyes, they're voids, dark places where light goes to sleep, and yet it doesn't shout. It moves like a judge with a sentence already written, crushing not for pleasure, but because that's what it's made to do. You feel a cold truth in your chest. This is the part of the vision that frightens even the silence. But still you drift closer. Then you notice it. Among the 10 horns, another begins to grow, small at first, almost timid. But then it pushes, elbows the others aside. It rises taller, prouder, and then it speaks. Not to you, but at everything. Boastful, loud, proud words that echo even though no sound fills the air. You feel the weight of them in your bones. And here's your hidden thread tonight. Many have called this the little horn of rebellion. Some say it's Antiochus Epiphanes, the ancient king who desecrated the temple. Others say it's a symbol of a future tyrant. And still others argue it's something spiritual, a system not a person, an attitude more than a face. Theologians still debate. But you're not here to debate. You're here to watch. Because just as the little horn begins to assert itself as it tries to take center stage, you feel something shift. Not in the beast, but in the air. A presence enters. You sense a new movement beyond the beast's shadow. Something holy approaches, not to fight, not to argue, but simply to appear. And when it does, everything changes. But not yet. First, you must sit a while in the unsettling stillness this beast brings. Not because it's enjoyable, but because understanding demands it. This creature, whatever it is, represents systems built without soul, power that feeds on itself, control without compassion, and still it's temporary. You say that to yourself again and again. It's temporary. You back away now. The beast remains snarling without sound, but you don't fear it, because you remember what came before the lion that learned humility, the bear that devoured but passed, the leopard that flew fast and faded. And you know, deep in the hush of your thoughts, even the worst thing in the vision ends. So you breathe again and wait, because soon something ancient and kind will sit in judgment, and peace will no longer be a whisper. It will be a throne. You don't flinch when the little horn speaks again. Its voice, though proud and loud, now rings hollow in the cavern of your mind. You've heard enough boasting in the world to know it rarely means wisdom, and in Daniel's vision, this voice is noise without depth. Still you drift nearby watching how this small horn claims space among giants. There's something absurd in it. 10 horns grand and terrible, and then this one elbowing its way upward, blinking with too much confidence. Its mouth moves constantly. You can't quite hear the words, but you feel their intention. They mock, they defy. They try to reshape truth by speaking louder than it. And you know someone like that, don't you? Maybe not a horn, but a presence in your life, always talking, always dominating the moment, never leaving room for stillness. But you've learned better, because something greater is coming. The vision doesn't linger on the horn forever. Daniel watches heart heavy, and then the dream shifts again. A new scene. You feel it before you see it. The air warms, the shadows retreat, the noise dies, and then light, thrones, fire. You're not in Babylon anymore. You're not even on Earth. You're in a courtroom made of eternity. A throne like flames, wheels blazing with celestial fire. Its brilliance doesn't burn, it soothes. And seated upon it is someone ancient, older than time, older than stars, the Ancient of Days. You can't see his face, but you don't need to. His presence is enough to make even the proudest silence itself. You feel judgment, yes, but it's not cruel. It's right. Like finally exhaling after holding your breath too long. The books are opened, not slammed, not shouted into, just opened like hands unfolding to release truth. This moment has no rush, no chaos, just gravity wrapped in warmth. You could float in it forever. Here's your deep insight tonight. The Ancient of Days appears not as a warrior, but a judge. And not just any judge, a seated one. He doesn't chase the beast. He waits for it to crumble. That's real power. And here's your lesser-known gem. Some Jewish traditions see this figure as God in his absolute sovereignty. Others, especially Christian interpretations, suggest the Ancient of Days is God the Father, with the next figure one, like a Son of Man representing the Messiah. Still others hint at a vision of the divine court, where heaven rules in quiet contrast to the loud arrogance of earth. The little horn, it keeps speaking, but no one listens. Not anymore, because now you're watching something far greater unfold. You're watching the arrogance of beasts dissolve in the presence of the eternal. Daniel doesn't scream in terror, he simply watches, and so do you. You settle deeper now into the throne room's glow, knowing this moment isn't about the beasts. It's about their limits. And the throne? It doesn't move. It never needed to. You remember something simple, something sacred. God doesn't fight to win. He reigns. You remain in the glow of the throne room, not blinking, not needing to move. Time doesn't press forward here. It unfolds like a quiet breath. The Ancient of Days sits still, yet every moment around him pulses with life. Fire flows from his throne, not consuming but illuminating. It's the kind of fire that reveals instead of destroys. You drift above the floor of this courtroom of heaven. The 10,000 times 10,000 who stand before him are still reverent, almost translucent in their awe. They're not crowded, they're composed, each one radiant with purpose, yet quiet enough to let divine judgment speak first. And then the scene narrows. The fourth beast, the one with iron teeth and 10 horns, is still present, still pacing, still speaking through its little horn. It dares to make noise in front of eternity itself. It postures, but you sense even it knows what's coming. Then it happens. The Ancient of Days issues judgment. There's no lightning bolt, no thundering voice, just a decree wordless yet final. The beast is slain. You expect an explosion, but there is none. It's undone not by might, but by presence. The way a shadow vanishes when someone turns on a light. Its body is destroyed. Burned, yes, but not with earthly fire. This is judgment fire, holy, clean, necessary. There's no chaos, no vengeance, just resolution. And the others, the beasts before it, they are allowed to live a little longer. Their dominion is taken away, but their lives extended for a season and a time, as Daniel puts it. That phrase stays with you, a season and a time, as if even fallen empires are on borrowed grace. Even their endings are patient. Now your spirit turns toward a figure who begins to appear. Someone new, someone soft, someone like you. One like a son of man, Daniel says, and you see him now. He comes on the clouds, not riding them, but with them, as if they're part of him, as if the skies themselves are honored to carry his presence. He doesn't march, he doesn't shout, he simply arrives. You feel your heart quiet further, your thoughts kneel inside you. This figure is given dominion, glory, a kingdom, and not by conquest, but by gift. He doesn't seize authority, it's handed to him. And here's tonight's deep mystery. This phrase, Son of Man, will echo across centuries. Jesus will claim it often, not as a title of power, but of purpose. The human divine, the divine human. Some scholars say Daniel is seeing the Messiah here. Others think it's a representation of Israel's faithful vindicated before the nations. And still others propose a celestial being granted leadership in the heavenly realm. But what you feel hovering in this moment is not a need to decode. You feel belonging. The Son of Man stands in front of the Ancient of Days, not as a challenger, but as a beloved. He receives a kingdom that won't be destroyed, a people that won't pass away, and somehow you're part of that. No trumpet announced you. No beast noticed you, but here you are floating in the quiet glory of eternal justice. No more horns, no more teeth, just light. You breathe in deep and slow, because now you know something the beasts never could. The kingdom that lasts is the one that doesn't need to shout. The throne room doesn't vanish, it simply recedes into a deeper stillness, like a great cathedral quieting after the final hymn. You remain suspended in the peace that follows divine judgment, but Daniel does not. He trembles. Even after the vision ends, his spirit is shaken. His face is pale, his thoughts unsettled. And you drift beside him now, not above the thrones of heaven, but back on earth, where prophets sometimes wake up with pounding hearts and unanswered questions. It's strange, isn't it, to see such a holy vision, majestic, eternal, victorious, and still feel afraid. But it makes sense. Because the more Daniel saw, the more he realized how little he controlled. He saw beasts' horns, kingdoms, thrones, and through it all, a timeline far too vast for one man to hold in his hands. He was not comforted yet. He was overwhelmed. And you You feel that too sometimes. That mix of wonder and weight, like being shown the stars while still standing barefoot in the dirt. Daniel writes down the dream, every detail, every wing, every horn, every fire-lit throne. But he doesn't explain it to others, not yet. He hides the meaning in his heart. And here's your hidden thread tonight. Many scholars note that Daniel's silence in this moment is unlike the bold declarations of other prophets. He doesn't proclaim, he preserves. Some say it's because the vision wasn't meant to be understood fully then or now. Others believe Daniel simply knew that true mystery is not always for public consumption. Sometimes it's meant to be held, not shared. But this quiet sorrow in Daniel's heart, it reveals something rare in Scripture. A prophet who is not just a messenger, but a man trembling under the weight of glory. And there's beauty in that, because it reminds you that feeling small before God isn't failure. It's faith. Now you walk beside him through the halls of Babylon. The city still hums with noise. Traders shout, torches crackle, people bow before statues that can't see. But Daniel, he's seen something far more real and he can't unsee it. There's a tenderness in his silence, a holy hush. He isn't plotting revenge or crafting sermons. He's just listening, remembering, letting the vision breathe inside him. And maybe that's your insight tonight. Not every revelation is meant to be spoken. Some are seeds, and seeds are quiet before they bloom. Here's a curiosity: most Miss Daniel doesn't ask for interpretation yet. He doesn't demand clarity. He simply writes, waits, prays. Some traditions believe this is the beginning of a pattern, the sacred rhythm of seeing, feeling, waiting. And in your own life, you know that rhythm well. See something, feel too much, wait in silence. You watch Daniel exhale under the moonlight. The wind stirs, but not urgently. The city doesn't change. The empires don't crumble. But Daniel has. Gently, deeply. And you have too. Because visions aren't meant to change your surroundings immediately. They're meant to change you. The night stretches long, and Daniel does not sleep. You hover close to him now, not in the whirlwind of vision, but in the tender aftermath. The kind of silence that follows divine encounter is different. It's not empty. It hums. You feel it pressing gently on your thoughts like the weight of a warm blanket at the end of a long journey. And yet Daniel's spirit is troubled. You sense it in the way he walks slowly, head bowed, as if each step carries the residue of heaven. His vision wasn't just imagery, it was impact. And though the Ancient of Days had ruled and the beasts had fallen, Daniel still carries the weight of what's to come. You wonder, how can a soul be both blessed and burdened at once? But it happens all the time, doesn't it? The presence of God often leaves a trembling behind. Daniel seeks clarity, so again he prays. Not for show, not with flourish, just the honest voice of someone who wants to understand. He asks what many of us ask, though fewer dare put it in words. What does all of this mean? This time an angel responds, not with flashing wings or a trumpet blast, just quiet presence. You don't know his name yet, but he speaks with the calm assurance of someone who's been in the throne room you just left. He tells Daniel what you already felt: the beasts are kingdoms, human empires, their rule loud and temporary, their end inevitable. But the saints, the holy ones, will inherit something better. A kingdom that won't be taken, a dominion that doesn't crack like clay, a peace that doesn't need fire to defend it. Daniel listens, so do you. But then comes the troubling part. The little horn, the mouthy, arrogant one, it wages war against the saints. And it wins. At least for a time. That strikes something deep inside you. Because it feels familiar. How often does evil seem to shout louder? How often do the proud march while the peaceful kneel? And here's your deep thread tonight. The vision doesn't deny this tension. It embraces it. The saints don't escape struggle. They endure it. Not through swords, but through patience. Through a kind of spiritual stillness that wears down even the boldest horn. You drift beside Daniel's thoughts, now watching them swirl. He's disturbed. He hears of oppression of times and laws being changed, of the holy ones being worn out. And yet the judgment comes. Not immediately, but surely. And when it does, the dominion of the arrogant horn is taken away, consumed, and destroyed. Here's your quiet curiosity. Some ancient interpreters saw this wearing out of the saints as a slow legal persecution, not violence, but manipulation. A change of law, of language, of time itself. Others say it refers to cultural pressure, the kind that doesn't demand a sword, just silence. Either way, it's not loud, it's slow, and that's what makes it dangerous. But it ends. The kingdom is handed over not to one man, but to the saints, the faithful, the quiet, those who didn't win by force but by faith. You think of Daniel now alone in his chamber pressing ink to parchment. Not a king, not a warrior, just a man who dreams and listens and waits. And maybe that's the deepest message tonight. God does not reward those who roar. He honors those who endure. The vision quiets, but your spirit still echoes with its weight. You feel Daniel exhale in that slow, practiced way you do when your mind's full, but your heart refuses to panic. He's seen the end, and yet the middle lingers. And now the visions turn again, as if heaven has more to whisper. This time you're drawn forward into a new dream. You find yourself beside a river, perhaps the Ulai. It's peaceful here. Water moves like liquid silk, and the reeds hum with wind. But that calm won't last. Something approaches. A ram. Its horns are long, uneven. One stands taller but rose up later. You float just above it as it charges not randomly, but with purpose. Westward, northward, southward. Wherever it goes, no beast can stand before it. It tramples everything. And it doesn't stop. This ram is no chaotic monster, it's a machine. It moves with deliberate confidence. Its path is wide and its ambition endless. Daniel watches. You watch with him. This ram, you'll come to understand, represents Medo-Persia. The two horns the Medes first, then the Persians rising later stronger. The westward charge mirrors their historical expansion. But the vision doesn't pause to explain history, it's painting a feeling. You sense it too, that feeling of a power that keeps pressing forward, convinced nothing can stop it. Until, of course, something does. But not yet. Let's pause with the ram for a moment. Because there's a stillness hidden in its motion. Even as it conquers, you notice the sky doesn't shake. The earth doesn't scream. God isn't alarmed. The ram may dominate, but heaven doesn't flinch. And here's your lesser-known gem. In some commentaries, the uneven horns symbolize more than nations, they point to leadership styles. The slower rise of the Persian Empire brought bureaucracy, administration, order, but not necessarily mercy. Some scholars even see this ram as symbolic of religious rigidity, strong, unyielding, but blind to nuance. Others interpret the directions of the ram as more than geography. They say they represent influence, cultural, spiritual, even intellectual. The way a belief or a system moves through minds like armies through valleys. And now as you drift near its horns, you notice something strange. It looks exhausted. For all its strength, the ram appears tired. Its strides feel slower now, more habitual than urgent. Like a kingdom that has forgotten why it began conquering in the first place. But it still charges, because that's all it knows. And isn't that a little familiar? Sometimes you keep moving, not because it's wise, but because you're afraid to stop. Daniel doesn't interrupt. He doesn't challenge the ram, he just observes. So do you. There's something deeply spiritual in watching with stillness. And just as the ram stamps its foot again as if to say, I am unstoppable, you hear it. Wind. Faster than before. Something's coming. But you're not there yet. Tonight you're learning how even the strongest forces exhaust themselves eventually. And that sometimes even relentless ambition must pause, if only to brace for the silence that follows. You don't hear the goat before it arrives. You feel it like a pressure wave through the vision, a sudden crack in the silence that had settled around the river. The ram is still there, still proud, still stomping, but its rhythm falters. The wind shifts, the reeds shiver, and then from the west across the whole surface of the earth comes a male goat. It doesn't touch the ground. It moves like thought, faster than fear, too swift to measure. Its hooves blur, its eyes lock onto the ram with laser purpose. Between the goat's eyes, a notable horn, long, sharp, singular. You're pulled toward it by a force more magnetic than visual, not just a symbol of power, but of focus. And the collision, it happens almost before you know it. No dialogue, no pause. The goat rushes, the ram strikes it, shatters its horns, and tramples it into the dust. And just like that, the ram is gone. The silence that follows feels stunned. Even Daniel, who's seen lions and leopards and thrones of fire, blinks in shock. You drift near him, sharing the same strange awe. You watched empires rise slowly, but this one came all at once. Some say the goat is Greece, led by Alexander the Great, whose campaigns moved with lightning speed. In just a few years, his conquests stretched farther than Persia ever dreamed. The single-horn Alexander himself, young, driven, and fierce. But even power like that does not last. Because as soon as the goat stands victorious, chest-heaving, horn gleaming, it breaks. Without warning, without enemy, it just breaks. No beast strikes it. No angel descends. The great horn simply snaps. And what rises in its place? Four. Four horns point in four directions. You watch them sprout like branches from a fallen trunk. And suddenly the speed, the focus, the glory, it's fragmented. Some scholars see these four horns as the four generals who divided Alexander's empire after his early death: Cassander, Lysimachus, Seleucus, and Ptolemy. None matched his power. None held the center. And here's your lesser-known gem. In some interpretations, the shattering of the goat's horn isn't just history, it's a warning about how rapid success often outpaces the soul, how what rises too fast can't support its own height. Others go deeper still. They say this vision speaks to the nature of all human greatness, how it blooms and shatters in one breath, how pride doesn't always fall in battle, but in victory. You hover near the fragments of the goat's horn now. They glisten like broken glass, beautiful in their ruin. And the silence grows again. Not the peaceful kind, the kind that waits for the next disturbance. Because one of the four horns isn't done. From it, something small begins to rise. But you'll face that soon enough. Tonight, let the vision slow here. The speed of conquest, the shock of collapse, the echo of ambition breaking in midair. And above it all, the calm of heaven unmoved by empires that burn like candles too tall. The broken horn lies silent now, its shards glinting in the dust of dreams. You hover just above the fragments, feeling the absence of what once was so fierce, so focused. The goat, once unstoppable, has faded into memory, another empire shattered not by battle, but by the weight of its own speed. And from one of those four new horns, something begins to stir. You sense it first, a pressure, a tension, like the slow turning of a key in a lock. Then it rises. A little horn, not as proud at first, not as loud, but persistent, ambitious. You watch it grow not in height, but in reach. It stretches toward the south, toward the east, and toward the beautiful land. That phrase, the beautiful land, it stays with you. You know it doesn't just mean geography, it means sacredness. Jerusalem, the place where heaven kissed the earth in covenant. And now this horn reaches for it. It doesn't roar, it twists. It grows cunning, expanding its influence with subtle strength. And slowly it casts down some of the host of heaven, the stars themselves. You glance upward and watch as stars fall, not like meteors, but like angels tripped in mid-flight. They don't scream, they shimmer and vanish. This horn dares to exalt itself, not just above kingdoms, above the prince of the host. And here is where your breath slows, because this isn't mere conquest anymore. This is desecration. The daily sacrifice is taken away. The sanctuary is cast down. Truth itself is thrown to the ground. And somehow, astonishingly, the horn prospers. Daniel watches in stunned silence. You feel it in his soul, a cry without sound. How could this be? How could arrogance flourish while truth bleeds quietly into the dust? And here's your deep insight tonight. Many believe this little horn refers to Antiochus Epiphanes, the Seleucid king who desecrated the Second Temple, erecting an altar to Zeus and outlawing sacred Jewish practices. Others, especially later interpreters, see this as a foreshadowing of a greater blasphemy, a future figure who rises at the end of days. The New Testament echoes Daniel's language to speak of this coming deception. Still others view it symbolically, a recurring spirit of rebellion that rises again and again through history, always challenging heaven with quiet cruelty. And your quiet curiosity. The casting down of stars has long puzzled scholars. Are they angels? Are they symbols of saints of truth? Or simply the heavenly order itself being disrupted by human ego? There is no full agreement, only wonder. But then in the vision, a voice breaks the tension. Two holy ones speak. How long, one asks? A simple question, a human question, a holy one. How long will this trampling continue? And the answer comes not in thunder, but in number. 300 evenings and mornings. Then the sanctuary will be cleansed. You breathe that number in slowly. Not random, not rushed. It has an end. And maybe that's the softest truth in this section. Desecration has a deadline. The horn may rise, the stars may fall, truth may be crushed underfoot. But heaven counts the days, and when they are fulfilled, the sanctuary, your sanctuary, will be restored. You linger now in this promise, not a sword, not a war cry, just a whisper that says even when the stars fall, they rise again. You remain near the edge of that desecrated ground, where once there was sacrifice, now only silence. The little horn still moves in the distance, cunning, persuasive, too sure of itself. It prospers in shadow, but you feel something shifting. The vision turns again. Daniel, weary from all he's seen, lies low. His spirit can hardly hold more. But heaven isn't done yet, because now a being appears. Not a beast, not a king, an angel. You turn as he steps into the dream like a beam of controlled lightning. His name rings gently in the vision, Gabriel, the messenger, the interpreter. He doesn't shout. He approaches with calm purpose. You drift beside Daniel as he watches eyes wide. He's seen creatures and kingdoms collapse, but an angel standing beside him, that humbles him more than anything. Gabriel speaks with tenderness, but even his words overwhelm. His voice is clarity wrapped in thunder. You can feel it stir in your chest. "Understand, O Son of Man," he says. "This vision is for the time of the end." And just like that, your timeline stretches. This isn't just history, it's forever. Gabriel begins to explain the ram is the kings of Media and Persia. The goat is the king of Greece. The great horn is the first king, and the four that rise afterward are 4 kingdoms, but none with his power. And then the little horn in the latter time of their kingdom, when rebellion grows bold. This king is fierce, Gabriel says, understanding dark sentences, a phrase that sends a chill through your spirit. You've heard many voices, but this one, this horn king, it doesn't just conquer with armies. It conquers with language, with lies so clever they feel like truth. His power is not his own. He destroys with a smooth hand. He rises through deceit, and worst of all, he exalts himself against the Prince of Princes. You feel the weight of those words. He lifts himself against the one who sits above thrones. And for a moment, it seems he succeeds. But Gabriel's voice doesn't pause. He shall be broken without human hand. That phrase hums like a lullaby of justice. No army brings him down. No rebellion ends him. He falls because God decides he falls. And here's your deep curiosity broken without hand echoes, earlier language in Daniel the stone, not cut by human hands, that crushed the statue in Nebuchadnezzar's dream. Scholars link these moments together like whispered echoes. The downfall of arrogance never comes through human means. It comes through divine timing. Some believe this fierce king is again Antiochus Epiphanes, and historically he was broken unexpectedly. Others see in him a preview of future rebellion, a shadow of the final deceiver to come, a face of evil that changes across generations. But you feel what Daniel feels, the sadness of seeing truth trampled. The hope of knowing truth never stays down. The message ends and Daniel falls face down, his strength gone. Even angels can overwhelm prophets. Gabriel leaves, the vision fades. But something stays. The idea that deceit might rise, but it always has a limit. Even the smoothest lies hit the unbreakable wall of truth. You settle back into stillness, knowing this even when truth is thrown to the ground, it is not destroyed. It waits. And then in perfect timing, it rises again without human hand. You lie in the stillness, now heavy with what you've seen. The air around Daniel remains thin, as if reality itself is recovering from the weight of divine vision. His hands tremble. His eyes search the sky for rest, but rest isn't what comes next. 'Cause heaven isn't done speaking. Not yet. You drift forward in time only slightly, enough for Daniel to begin recovering, enough for new mysteries to arrive. And then a voice not angelic this time, but human. Daniel's own voice praying. You listen closely. It's soft, reverent, steady. He's been fasting, mourning, seeking understanding, not just of visions, but of truth. You find him beside the scrolls of Jeremiah, where the prophet wrote of 70 years of desolation for Jerusalem. Daniel reads those words over and over. He does not question them. He responds with humility. And now his prayer unfolds one of the most beautiful, earnest human prayers in all of Scripture. He doesn't complain, he confesses. Not just for himself, but for his people. We have sinned. We have not listened. Righteousness belongs to you. You hover near him and feel what heaven must feel, a prayer not rooted in fear but in honesty, in trust. He asks for mercy, not because they deserve it, but because God is merciful. And suddenly something happens. The moment Daniel begins to pray, Gabriel returns. He doesn't wait until the prayer ends. He's dispatched while Daniel is still speaking. This is your quiet treasure tonight, heaven responds before the sentence is complete. Gabriel says he was sent at the beginning of the supplication because Daniel is greatly beloved. And you pause on that phrase, not greatly powerful, not greatly brilliant, greatly beloved. You drifting nearby are invited into that same space. The feeling that even in weakness, even in confession, God sees you as beloved. Now Gabriel begins a new revelation. 70 weeks are determined. It's not a calendar you'd recognize. It's symbolic, measured in weeks of years. This prophecy unfolds like a tapestry, 77s, to bring an end to sin, to seal up vision, to anoint the most holy. And then the details. From the decree to rebuild Jerusalem to the coming of Messiah the Prince, 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The city will be rebuilt, but not easily. It will be done in troublous times. Then the Messiah will be cut off, but not for himself. Your breath catches. That phrase moves gently across your heart like a shadow you've seen before. Some say it points to Jesus, to the one who came and was rejected, whose death was not failure, but fulfillment. Others wonder if it refers to a broader messianic hope. A righteous one removed unjustly. A leader of peace struck down in a world that prefers chaos. And your curiosity tonight. The exact timing has been debated for centuries. Some scholars align the dates to precise historical moments. Others see it more symbolically, a framework, not a stopwatch. But here's what matters in the quiet. The Messiah is cut off, not for himself. Sacrifice, substitution, love that moves without needing anything in return. You float beside Daniel as he tries to take it all in. His mind swims in numbers, empires, promises. And then comes the last line, one that echoes through the centuries. A covenant will be confirmed for 1 week. In the middle of it, sacrifice and offering shall cease. A desolation will come, until the one who brings it is destroyed. You sit with that paradox, a covenant, then betrayal. A holy place defiled, then restored. It's a vision wrapped in riddles, but pulsing with hope. Because even when the holy is desecrated, even when offerings are silenced, even when the faithful are worn down, the end is not in the hand of the wicked. It is measured in evenings and mornings, watched over by angels and answered before your prayers are even done. The numbers still echo faintly, 70 weeks, 62, 1 cut off. But now the rhythm shifts. You drift forward in time again, as Daniel finds himself near the Tigris River, his body thin from fasting, his soul already prepared for more. It's the 24th day of the first month. The air is still. Daniel lifts his eyes and you feel him stop breathing. You follow his gaze. A man clothed in linen standing above the river. His body flashes like beryl. His face shines like lightning. His eyes burn like torches, and his arms and legs gleam like polished bronze. His voice, like the sound of a multitude, not loud, layered. As if every river, every wind, every echo in the world spoke in harmony. Daniel collapses. The men with him don't even see the vision, they just feel something holy and run. You remain beside Daniel, gently lowered to the ground, the voice still humming in your ears like thunder softened by distance. The man touches him, and strength begins to return. Here's a quiet gem tonight. Many believe this figure is not just an angel, but a pre-incarnate Christ, similar to the one seen in Revelation by John. Others argue it's Gabriel again, appearing in a more radiant form. Still others say this is Michael in his glory. The text does not insist, it simply reveals. And that's part of the beauty. Some truths are meant to be sat with, not solved. Daniel trembles. He says he has no strength, no breath left in him. But the man touches his lips, and Daniel speaks. You drift closer now as he confesses his fear and weakness, not as a flaw, but as a truth. He is not ashamed of it. And then the messenger gives you a message of your own. Do not be afraid, Daniel, he says. From the first day that you set your heart to understand, your words were heard. Let that settle in your soul like warm oil. From the first day, before the answer arrived, before the angel appeared, before understanding came, God heard. And the angel, he had been fighting to reach Daniel. The Prince of Persia, a spiritual force, had resisted him 21 days. You realize behind the silence there had been a war not on earth but in the unseen. And your presence here, quiet and still, is now filled with the awareness that silence isn't always absence. Sometimes it's the space where battles rage in dimensions you cannot measure. And then Michael arrived. The archangel, the Prince of Israel, the warrior of light. He helped the messenger break through. And now the angel is here, delivering what was delayed. Not because God was hesitant, but because the fight was real. Here's your deeper insight. This is one of the few scriptures that pulls back the curtain between earth and heaven. It shows that prayer is not a whisper into a void, it's a summons into a conflict. And your lesser-known curiosity. Some scholars link this passage to the idea of territorial spirits, spiritual forces assigned over regions, ideologies, systems. It's a contested idea. Some embrace it. Others caution against reading too much. But what's clear? Your prayers ripple in places far beyond your room. Daniel says nothing. He simply bows his face again to the ground. But the man lifts him. Do not be afraid, he repeats. Peace be with you. Be strong. Yes, be strong. And Daniel feels it. So do you? Not adrenaline, not escape, just strength, returning, slow and sacred, like light filtering through a veil of fog. You drift in that strength now. It's not the kind that breaks empires. It's the kind that waits when empires rise and fall. Because from the first day heaven heard, and even now it moves, the river's hush returns. Not because the angel has gone, but because the message now deepens. You and Daniel both stand not stronger than before, just steadier. There's no more trembling, only reverence. Gabriel, or perhaps another messenger cloaked in glory, now begins to unfold what has long been hidden, a heavenly calendar, unlike anything Daniel or you have ever seen. You feel the vision stretch like a scroll across the sky. The timeline begins to glow with divine milestones, and every word you hear feels like both poetry and blueprint. The messenger speaks softly but clearly. Now I will tell you the truth. And suddenly, a long, detailed tapestry unfolds, a sequence of kings, wars, alliances, and betrayals. Names are not spoken, but you feel the shape of empires as they pass. The king of Persia will rise, followed by 3 more, and then a 4th far richer, who stirs all against Greece. Then a mighty king appears. He rules with vast dominion, he does as he pleases. But as quickly as he rises, he falls. His kingdom is divided into 4, not passed to his descendants, but to others strangers to his bloodline. You recognize the Echo Alexander again. Not just a historical note, but a pattern. Greatness grasped, splintered, glory divided, and from the pieces, new stories. You hover just above the visions unfolding, watching kingdoms rise not with celebration, but with calculation. You sense the cold diplomacy of earthly ambition. The king of the south gains strength. Then the king of the north retaliates. They move like pieces across a divine chessboard, each convinced of their power, each unaware they are allowed to move only so far. Here's your deep insight tonight. Daniel is being shown that time itself has a structure known only to God. Not a mechanical schedule, but a sacred rhythm where mercy and judgment alternate like breath in the lungs of creation. And your lesser-known gem. These prophecies, particularly Daniel 11, have sparked thousands of interpretations. Some believe they align precisely with historical figures, Ptolemy's and Seleucids' battles like Raphia and Antioch. Others see the chapter as dual-layered, part history, part foreshadowing of a future tyrant. Still others argue the chapter's complexity is its purpose to show that only God sees clearly from beginning to end. And you just drift here. You don't rush to solve, you listen, because that's what Daniel does. He doesn't interrupt the messenger, he absorbs. He lets the prophecy unfold like a sunrise that takes hours. He watches how the south and north push and pull. Treaties made then broken. Daughters given in marriage as political pawns. Armies rise, then disappear like mist. It's exhausting, beautiful, sacred. Because in all of it, you begin to feel the same truth that Daniel does. God isn't worried. The visions aren't chaos. They are choreography. Nations can roar, horns can speak, beasts can trample. But heaven, it keeps perfect time, and tonight so do you. As you float above the timeline, above history, written before it was lived, you feel your soul sink with a peace that empires cannot alter, because calendars come and go. But the author, he writes in eternity. You linger in that holy stillness, the pages of prophecy fluttering invisibly in the air around you. The divine timeline continues to unfold, not in haste, not in panic, but with precise gravity. You and Daniel are witnesses breathing slowly in the presence of a future already seen. And now the vision turns personal, because from this great span of kings and shifting borders emerges a single aching moment. A figure appears, an anointed one, not for power, not for conquest, but for something softer. A Messiah. He is not described in glory or vengeance. No crown, no throne, no sword. He is cut off, and not for himself. The phrase hangs in the air like a breath held too long. You feel it ripple across the vision, the weight of love that bleeds in silence. Some say this points to Jesus, the Christ, who came not to conquer, but to redeem, who stood quietly before empires and offered himself. Others debate the timing, arguing the prophecy fits a different figure, a priest or prince martyred for his people. But regardless of the name, you feel the ache in the vision. This anointed one is not forgotten. He is promised, and his suffering is not in vain. Then the timeline flows again. The city is destroyed. The sanctuary burned, a people scattered. War washes over holy ground like storm waves over old stones. It happened once historically, Jerusalem razed by Rome. But prophecy rarely rests in the past. Some see this as a shadow of things still to come, a repetition, a cycle, and again a covenant is made. For 1 week, a final period, a final tension. In the middle of that week, sacrifice ceases. The altar is silenced, the offering cut off, not just because of war, but because something greater has come, or something dark. Interpretations differ here. Some say this marks the moment when the Messiah's death made further offerings unnecessary. Others believe this describes a future desecration, a final assault on what is holy before the end of days. And here's your soft curiosity tonight. The abomination of desolation mentioned here in veiled terms becomes a phrase Jesus himself will later use. A marker, a signal, a time when the sacred is defiled beyond tolerance. You feel Daniel wrestle with this, his spirit straining to hold all the timelines, the meanings, the weight. You feel it too. Because the prophecy ends not in celebration, but in this single quiet note, until the consummation which is determined is poured out on the desolator. In other words, the evil ends. The one who desecrates is not forgotten either. Justice waits, but it does not sleep. You breathe slowly again. The prophecy does not shout in triumph. It ends in certainty. There is a time appointed for everything, even desecration. And when it is fulfilled, when the final week runs its course, the sanctuary will be restored, the covenant completed, and peace true and eternal will no longer be a prophecy. It will be a reality. And tonight, as you float in the still glow of this unfolding promise, you hold this truth. The Messiah was not cut off for himself. He was cut off for you. You drift through the silence left behind by sacrifice. Not the silence of loss, but of waiting. Sacred, deliberate waiting. The kind of stillness that follows a curtain torn in two. The vision continues. You feel Daniel's heart move beneath you like a slow drum. The images have changed him, and now they change again. Because even though the anointed one has been cut off, something stirs in the shadows. A covenant. It begins quietly as they always do. Not with trumpets, but with a signature made in the dark. Someone confirms a covenant with many for 1 week. But the peace is thin. Halfway through the week it cracks. The offerings stop. The sacred is touched with desecration. And now the phrase returns whispered like a warning across centuries, an abomination that causes desolation. You feel it pulse in the air. Something profanes what was meant to be pure. Daniel sees it. So do you. A structure once holy now desecrated. A promise made now poisoned. The covenant isn't broken loudly. It's twisted subtle. And that's what makes it worse. Some say this covenant was political, that it refers to a deal made by Antiochus Epiphanes, the Seleucid ruler, who outlawed Jewish practices and defiled the temple with pagan idols. Others believe it points far beyond that, to a future leader, a charismatic figure who offers peace and security, then betrays both. Still others interpret it spiritually. Every time we trade truth for convenience, reverence for control, a little piece of the altar falls. And your quiet curiosity tonight, the many in this covenant, who are they? Some believe they are nations, others the people of God, or perhaps anyone who exchanges the eternal for the immediate. Whoever they are, they're not forgotten. Because even in the desolation, there is a boundary. The messenger made it clear, the desolator has an end. It may seem like he wins, interrupting worship, changing laws, redefining truth, but it is all numbered. 7 years, split in half, measured, allowed but not eternal. And here's your deep insight tonight. God is not surprised by betrayal. The covenant's corruption doesn't cancel the covenant's completion. You drift now over the desecrated place, not in fear, but in sorrow. The altars are cold, the sacrifices silenced, but not forever. Because in the stillness you hear something coming. Not boots, not shouts. Restoration. You can feel it approach like rain before it falls. And you remember, even desecration has a shelf life. Even betrayal has a border. Daniel feels it too. His visions may be of destruction, but his hope is in timing. Because when you know that every moment, every rise, every fall, every abomination has a limit set by God's hand, you no longer tremble at the shadows. You wait, you trust, and you whisper with Daniel in the night, "How long, O Lord?" And heaven answers gently, "Not forever." You move now through a vision thick with time. The sanctuary lies quiet behind you, yet the air ahead is anything but calm. You feel it even before Daniel does the low drumbeat of war. Not just a battle, a season, a long grinding strain that presses history forward like the tide against tired cliffs. And the angel says it plainly, "Even to the end there shall be war." The words don't ring with drama. They land softly like a reality long known by heaven. This is not panic, this is prophecy. And here you are floating beside it, watching what many fear spoken gently in a whisper. War until the end. Desolations are determined, but even in that there's something ordered. Daniel sees nations collide again and again, north against south, kingdom against kingdom. Leaders rise with charm and fall with nothing more than a sigh of time passing. Deceit thrives. Treaties are signed and broken like paper in the wind. And yet God allows it. Not because he delights in conflict, but because all things must run their course. You and Daniel stand beside the vision, watching the cost of free will. The consequences of choices made by kings who do not know the King of Heaven. But here's the beauty buried beneath the battle. Nothing goes unseen. You drift near the shadows of soldiers who do not know they march toward judgment. Their swords shine for a moment, then dull with rust. Their names fill scrolls that will soon gather dust. Empires call themselves eternal, but heaven knows their endings. Tonight's Deep Insight War is not the end of the story. It is the evidence that a story exists, one with chapters, one with arcs, one with a conclusion authored in silence before creation ever spoke. Your quiet curiosity tonight. There's a phrase the angel uses when speaking of the desolator, even until the consummation which is determined. Consummation means the full completion, the final wrapping of a thing. In Hebrew thought, it's not just about destruction, it's about fulfillment. The finishing of a thread woven through pain and glory alike. So yes, war continues, but not forever, because there is an end, and God owns that end. You hover now over a world in tension. You see the lines between countries' ideologies and faiths drawn in sand that will one day blow away. You see kings bluffing and prophets praying. You see towers rise and rivers of sorrow carved into cities. And yet peace waits patiently beneath it all, like a seed buried under frost. Not dead, just hidden. You imagine Daniel's breath now soft and tired. He has seen centuries unfold like fabric in the wind. He knows war is real, but more than that, he knows it's temporary. So tonight you rest beside that knowledge, not in denial, not in fear, but in the calm truth that war may fill the pages of the book, but peace writes the final line. The vision fades to quiet again, but not emptiness. You now find yourself beside a river, not of blood, not of war, but of reflection. Daniel is there, not standing tall, kneeling. He's older now. The weight of visions, the passage of kings, the strain of prayer, all of it rests on him like a robe worn thin at the seams. And still, he prays. You kneel with him. The dust is soft, the wind gentle. There is no throne room here, no angel's trumpet, only the slow, sacred breath of a man who still seeks understanding. And this is when it happens. Another vision, another moment soaked in mystery and peace. He lifts his eyes and you do the same. On the bank of the river stands a radiant figure, and you realize this is not for fear, this is for comfort. Daniel has not asked for another vision. He has simply fasted, mourned, waited. And God has responded not with answers alone, but with presence. Here is tonight's spiritual thread. Sometimes heaven speaks loudest, not when we demand, but when we wait without expecting. You feel Daniel's humility in your bones. He doesn't pray for power. He doesn't demand justice. He simply says, "We have sinned." And God answers with tenderness. "You are greatly beloved." You let that sink in. Again, not powerful, not perfect, beloved. The angel stands by the river, luminous and strong, but his voice is soft when he speaks. He speaks of truth, of conflict, of what is written in the book of truth, a scroll invisible to men but open before God. You wish you could read it, but for now you can only feel the peace in knowing it exists. Then the angel reveals more, a battle beyond what you can see. Behind the world's governments, behind its wars, a prince of Persia who resists, a spiritual force not in flesh and blood but still active, still powerful. And opposite him, Michael, the archangel, the protector of God's people, the one who stands in the unseen space guarding what can't guard itself. And here's your quiet curiosity. Daniel in this moment is told something astonishing, that his prayers are part of this battle, that when he mourned, fasted, knelt by this very river, the angels began to move. You pause there. You too have prayed by rivers, literal or figurative. You've fasted in silence, grieved without voice. And now you learn none of it was wasted. Heaven moves when you mourn righteously. The angel tells Daniel he will reveal what is yet to come, not for fear but for faith. A reminder that while kings rage, God calculates. While horns rise, heaven prepares. And Daniel listens. He doesn't interrupt. He receives. Tonight's deep insight. God's most powerful work often begins where you stop striving. When you sit beside the river and confess we do not understand, but we trust, heaven answers. And it doesn't always send a sword. Sometimes it just sends a messenger with fire in his eyes and peace in his words. So now you breathe with Daniel. You watch the ripples on the water, and you whisper what he feels in his heart. Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. The river remains, quiet, faithful, like time itself, always flowing, never in a hurry. You and Daniel stay near the edge, the angel still standing beside him, light bending gently around his form. But now the vision sharpens, not upward but inward, because what Daniel is shown next is not about beasts or horns. It's about a battle behind the veil, a conflict not seen by kings or measured by historians. It unfolds in silence across the boundaries of the unseen world. The angel begins to explain. He was delayed. 21 days. Not by distance, not by indecision, but by resistance. A spiritual prince of Persia stood in opposition. Not a human ruler, but something darker. A being of influence and obstruction. A force that shapes earthly policies with invisible pressure. You feel the weight of that. How many things in this world are not what they appear to be? How many decisions made in palaces were influenced by hands unseen? But then Michael came. Daniel doesn't see the battle, but you glimpse it. Flashes of movement in the sky above you, wings against wind, silence cracking like thunder behind the stars. And here's your sacred insight: spiritual warfare is real, and it's not always about demons in darkness. Sometimes it's about delayed answers, unexplained tension, fatigue that doesn't come from your body, but from a place deeper. The angel stands now freed by Michael's aid, delivering a message that couldn't be stopped, only slowed. You sense it again, your prayers matter. Not because they are eloquent, but because they are heard. Daniel is still kneeling, too overwhelmed to speak, so the angel touches him again. 3 touches in all. One to lift him, one to open his mouth, one to give him strength. And now Daniel speaks. Not boldly, but honestly. He says he has no strength, that the vision has left him breathless, that he is unworthy to even listen. And the angel answers not with instruction, but with assurance. Peace be to you, be strong, yes, be strong. You let those words wash over you like the current of the river. Peace not because the battle is over, but because God is present in it. Strength not because you've earned it, but because he gives it freely. You hover near Daniel's shoulder now, and you understand something he's learning too. God doesn't just answer your prayer, he sends help. He dispatches angels through contested skies just to let you know, you are not alone. And here's tonight's curiosity. The angel says when he departs, he must return to fight again. First the Prince of Persia, then the Prince of Greece will come. The conflict isn't done. The skies are not clear, but heaven never stops showing up. So you stay here for now by the river. The world beyond may shift, kingdoms may rise and fall, prayers may seem to vanish, but under it all, behind it all, God is moving, and his messengers know your name. The river slips quietly past you as if even the water is listening now. The angel stands taller in the golden light, his message not yet finished. Daniel's eyes are open, steady, no longer wide with fear, but with readiness. And now the angel speaks again, not just of battles in the heavens, but of wars on the earth. He begins to reveal the shape of conflict that is both political and spiritual. You watch the veil between worlds thin and realize there is no such thing as a merely earthly war. The angel says, I will now show you the truth. And with that, the kings rise again, north and south. The angel sketches out their futures like lines in sand. Armies forming, alliances forged, then betrayed. Daughters given in marriage to secure treaties, then discarded like pawns. And you're struck not by the violence, but by the predictability of it. Pride always overreaches. Power always forgets who grants it. Empires always assume they are the exception. But heaven watches every throne like a candle, brilliant but finite. You float above the battlefield now. No swords clash, no horns blow, just the slow certainty of prophecy unrolling. And at the center of it, Israel, the beautiful land, the crossroads of heaven and earth. You feel its weight, its tenderness. Kingdoms pass through it like storms through a garden, but still it remains. A land fought over by those who do not understand its true value, because its worth was never in borders. It was in promise. And here's tonight's insight. Some of the most critical prophecies are wrapped in geography, not because God is bound by land, but because he chose to touch earth in specific places so you could know he really came. The angel continues mentioning kings who do as they please, who speak blasphemies, who profane the temple. And still he says they shall fall, broken not by human hand. That phrase returns again like a soft thunder. No matter how high pride climbs, its ladder ends in air. Now here's your lesser-known thread. Some scholars believe the king who exalts himself above every god refers to Antiochus IV, who desecrated the temple with pagan worship. Others see it as a type, a shadow of a final figure, yet to come a man who will magnify himself beyond law, reason, or truth. Still others say it doesn't matter who it is. It matters that he ends. You breathe in that truth now. The war isn't new. The pride isn't surprising. The betrayal isn't unique. But the justice, that is eternal. And now the vision slows. The angel looks toward the far end of the age, the time of the end, and says the conflict will grow. Deceit will flourish. Many will fall. But the people who know their God, they will be strong. Not in politics, not in armies, in understanding. And that is your softest comfort tonight. Strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it kneels beside a river. Sometimes it prays in the silence. Sometimes it simply endures while empires burn. You stay near Daniel, watching as the vision expands again, not to crush you, but to steady you, because strength is coming, and the ones who truly know God will recognize it when it arrives. Now the shadows lengthen, the vision deepens. You are no longer on the banks of the river. You're hovering in a time that feels far from Daniel's sandals, yet eerily close to your own. The angel continues. The kings of the north and south still clash. Their patterns repeat like thunder after lightning, boasting betrayal retreat. But now a new figure rises from the north. Not just powerful, not just proud, blasphemous. You can feel the difference in this one. He exalts himself above every god. He speaks astonishing things against the God of gods, and he prospers for a time. You drift closer, and what strikes you is his confidence. Not in armies, but in deception. He doesn't just conquer land, he conquers meaning. And that's where the real danger lies. He desecrates what is sacred. He favors those who forsake the covenant. He flatters. He manipulates. And those who align with him aren't forced, they're persuaded. You realize this isn't tyranny of the sword. It's seduction of the soul. And here's your deep insight tonight. Daniel's vision shows that evil often comes wearing understanding. It offers false peace. It doesn't demand worship. It invites it with language that seems reasonable, spiritual, even compassionate. That's why discernment is stronger than resistance. And now the holy place is violated again. The daily sacrifice is taken away. The abomination of desolation is set up, something so defiling, so profane, that it renders the space unfit for worship. Some believe this points again to Antiochus, who desecrated the temple by sacrificing pigs on the altar. Others say it's only a preview of something larger, another desolator yet to come. A global deception that will touch hearts more than buildings. Your quiet curiosity tonight. The word abomination in Hebrew often refers to idolatry, especially false worship that mimics holiness. A counterfeit so close to the real, even the wise must stay alert. But not all are deceived. Because the angel says this, the people who know their God shall be strong and do exploits. You repeat that to yourself now. The people who know their God. Not know about him, not memorize rules, not master prophecy charts. No. Relationship over information, devotion over calculation. And because they know him, they act. Not in outrage, not in violence, but in quiet faithfulness. You feel it rise in you like a tide. The strength that comes from knowing God, not as a figurehead, but as a friend who speaks softly in visions, who sends messengers when you're weak, who sees what you do in the shadows and says, "You are greatly beloved." Daniel feels it too. The angel continues saying that many will fall by sword, by flame, by captivity. And yet, even in those trials, they will be refined, tested, purified, made ready for the time of the end. And that, dear listener, is the slow miracle of suffering in God's hands. It does not destroy you. It distills you. You are not being broken, you are being made clearer. So tonight you rest in this truth. Even when abominations rise, even when false peace spreads like smoke, even when truth is trampled, those who know their God will not be moved. The air around you grows heavier now, not with dread, but with a sense of nearing. Something final looms just ahead, and even the angel's voice seems to soften, as if preparing Daniel and you for truths too vast for unready hearts. You hover near Daniel once more as the vision intensifies. The king who exalts himself continues. He thrives on deception, worships no god except the God of fortresses, military strength, raw power, cunning alliances. He honors gold, silver, precious things, not out of reverence, but to buy loyalty. You feel the coldness in his strategy. His faith is in weapons. His trust is in influence. His devotion is to nothing but himself. And yet even this king is on a leash. For the angel reveals his time is short. You sense it approaching. The text doesn't rush, it unfolds, slowly, patiently, like judgment always does. The king of the south pushes. The king of the north responds with fury. Armies collide, territories shift, multitudes fall. And then, like a predator sensing weakness, the arrogant king enters the glorious land. The beautiful land. Israel. You feel the shift in atmosphere. This isn't just geopolitics now. It's sacred ground being trampled by feet that do not understand its weight. And yet even here God allows. Not forever, just for a moment. The king stretches his hand against many nations. Some fall, others escape. And now his eyes turn toward treasure wealth fortresses. He has everything, except peace. Then the final line comes. But news from the east and the north shall trouble him. It doesn't say what news, only that something breaks through his illusion of control. Something not anticipated. Something that reminds him you are not the end of this story. In a rage, he lashes out. He sets up his royal tents between the seas and the glorious holy mountain. He prepares to stake his claim one last time. And then he shall come to his end and no one will help him. You float in that moment of stillness. No armies rise to defend him. No alliances remain. No words can delay it. He ends. Not in drama, not in glory. Just quietly, alone. That's your deep insight tonight. Pride often ends with silence. Not because it was defeated, but because it was allowed to exhaust itself. And your lesser-known gem. The glorious holy mountain is often seen as Jerusalem's Mount Zion, the spiritual center of God's promises. This king, by placing his tent there, tries to claim ownership over what is not his. But heaven does not argue. It simply waits, and when the time is right, it removes him. Daniel doesn't cheer. He doesn't raise his hands in triumph. He just breathes. Because even though justice has come, the weight of what he's seen is almost too much for one man. You feel it too, that sacred ache of seeing the full arc of human arrogance and divine sovereignty. And now you rest with this truth. Every throne built on pride will eventually stand empty. Every hand that exalts itself will one day fall still. And those who wait quietly with God, they will inherit what pride can never reach. The vision does not end with the fall of kings. It shifts suddenly profoundly into something quieter and far more eternal. The angel continues, but now his voice sounds less like a messenger of war and more like a keeper of holy secrets. You feel it in your chest before he even speaks. You're no longer watching armies. You're standing at the edge of the end of days. And the next words pierce the silence. At that time Michael shall stand up. You remember him, Michael, the great prince, the protector, the warrior of the unseen realm who fights not for glory, but for God's people. And now he stands. The vision tilts upward and you see it clearly. This is not an ordinary hour. This is the time of the end, and heaven's defenders are not passive. They rise because something unprecedented is coming. A time of trouble, unlike any that has ever been. You feel its gravity. It's not chaos for chaos's sake. It is a cleansing, a reckoning, a cosmic pause before renewal. Not everyone will understand it. But Daniel is told something beautiful. At that time your people shall be delivered. Not because of military victory, but because their names are written in the book. You float gently above that sentence. Your spirit stills. Because this book isn't kept in temples or palaces. It's kept in heaven. And if your name is there, no earthly king can erase it. Now comes the promise that makes all the pain worth enduring. And many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake. Your breath catches. This is resurrection, some to everlasting life, others to shame and everlasting contempt. You pause here. The language is clear. This is not metaphor. It's movement. Bodies rising, dust parting, souls restored to light or to justice. And here's your deep insight tonight. This is one of the clearest references to resurrection in the Old Testament. Long before Paul, long before the empty tomb, Daniel saw a future where death was not the end. And here's your sacred curiosity. Some Jewish interpretations see this as symbolic, a revival of the faithful in Israel. Others see it literally as the dawn of a final judgment. Christian readings often connect this directly to Revelation. All agree it is holy. The angel goes further. Those who are wise shall shine like the brightness of the firmament. You look upward now as if expecting to see them already, souls lit like stars, burning not from pride but from faithfulness. And then, those who turn many to righteousness shall shine like the stars forever and ever. That's what heaven celebrates. Not empires, not accomplishments, but those who help others find light. You rest inside that truth. There are no statues for the quiet teacher, the whispering intercessor, the tired but faithful parent. but in heaven they blaze like stars that never go out. Daniel listens. He does not speak. His eyes shine with the shimmer of the vision. And then the command comes, "Shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end." This moment is not for everyone yet. Some things must unfold slowly. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. You feel the world speeding up already. But knowledge without wisdom, movement without stillness, those are not the things that will save you. You float beside Daniel, your heart full, your spirit softened. Because in the end, the wise won't be the ones who knew the most. They'll be the ones who helped others see God. And those are the ones who shine, forever. The vision lingers now in a realm beyond clocks, beyond calendars. You can feel it, Daniel has seen the peak. But like the final hush at the end of a sacred song, there is still one breath left to hold. Daniel stands by the river again. Two other beings appear angelic, shimmering like heat over water. One is on this side of the bank, the other across. They look toward the man clothed in linen, the one above the waters. And then one asks the question that lives inside every heart: how long shall the fulfillment of these wonders be? You hold still. So does heaven. And then the man above the water lifts his hands, both of them toward heaven. Not in rage, not in force, in solemn vow. He swears by him who lives forever. It shall be for a time, times, and half a time. You pause at that phrase, mysterious, rhythmic, a whisper of divine math. Some say it means 3.5 years, a prophetic shorthand, a symbol of suffering cut short. Others believe it means simply long enough to test you, but not so long as to break you. And then he adds, when the power of the holy people has been completely shattered, all these things shall be finished. You feel the sadness in that, but also the clarity. There are times when God allows his people to be shaken, not because he is cruel, but because he is preparing to rebuild them with no false foundations left. When nothing remains but him, then all will be restored. Daniel hears it but does not understand. You don't blame him. This is not a vision designed to explain. It is one designed to transform. Still he asks, what shall be the end of these things? And the answer comes not harsh, but loving. Go your way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end. He is not told to spread the vision, not yet. He is told to live faithfully, even with unanswered questions. You settle beside him now. The river reflects not the sky, but the softness in Daniel's spirit. And here comes your deep insight. Sometimes wisdom means accepting that you don't need all the details, because trust weighs more than certainty. Then the angel says, many shall be purified, made white, and refined. It will not be easy, it will not be instant, but it will be beautiful. The wicked will continue doing wickedly, and none of them will understand. But the wise, they will. Not because they've decoded every number, but because they know the author. You breathe in the final markers. From the time the daily sacrifice is taken away, and the abomination of desolation set up 1,090 days. Blessed is the one who waits and comes to the 335 days. What do they mean? So many have asked, so many still do. But the angel doesn't explain. He leaves Daniel and you with this: go your way till the end, for you shall rest and will arise to your inheritance at the end of the days. And that, dear soul, is tonight's most precious truth. You will not see everything, but you will rest. You will not solve every prophecy, but you will rise, not lost in time. But in your time, you float back now through visions, rivers, horns, and stars. And you carry one unshakable hope, that God knows the end, and in that end he has reserved a place for you. There is no more vision, just the breath of peace after prophecy. You linger now in a space beyond time, hovering in the hush that follows all revelation. Daniel has been told everything he's meant to know. His questions have not all been answered, but his soul has been steadied. And now it's time for rest. Not defeat, not confusion, just rest. You drift gently alongside him, an old man now no longer kneeling beside kings or decoding divine dreams. He is quiet, weathered, whole. He has served faithfully, seen empires rise and fall, stood in fire, and in lions' dens received visions that reached into the ends of the age. And now, he waits, but not in fear. He is told, go your way, live your life, take walks at sunset, pray your daily prayers, tend your thoughts like a quiet garden, and when your days are finished, you will rise. The promise isn't shouted. It's placed in his hands like a final scroll sealed with peace. You will arise to your inheritance at the end of the days. And tonight, as you rest in that same space, you realize something sacred. You are part of this story. This inheritance is not for prophets alone. It's for the wise, the faithful, the ones who whisper prayers no one else hears. The ones who choose truth when it isn't popular? The ones who fall and get up quietly? Daniel is done writing, and you are done listening for now. But the truth doesn't end. It just sleeps beside you. You close your eyes, letting the vision settle not as puzzles, but as promises. There is a kingdom. It cannot be shaken. And you, beloved of God, you will rise. And now, as the visions fade and your breathing slows, let's settle gently into sleep. Let your thoughts return to still waters and quiet thrones. Let the noise of today dissolve like dust beneath the feet of the Ancient of Days. Whatever burdens you brought into this night, know that they are small beside the kingdom that cannot be shaken. Feel the hush of angel wings folding near you. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible. You are greatly beloved, just like Daniel. No matter what shadows cross your days, heaven keeps count of your nights. Your prayers are not ignored. Your waiting is not wasted. Even the silence has purpose. Even the dreams you cannot explain are held in the hands of the one who sees the end from the beginning. So tonight, rest knowing this. God is not in a hurry. He writes in eternity, he speaks in whispers, and he holds your name in a book that does not fade. You are not racing through time, you are being carried through it. Gently, perfectly, lovingly. Now let go of the scroll. Let go of the horned beasts, the empires, the clocks. There is nothing more you need to solve. Only this: breathe in peace, breathe out trust, and drift into the quiet place between visions and dawn. End of script. Sweet dreams.